Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leslie presents. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to welcome a singer, a songwriter, a recording artist, a performer, Broadway's David Burnham. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a great pleasure to welcome you.
It's really my pleasure to be here, Paul.
My first question, I've affixed a lot of labels to you, but who is David Burnham at heart?
Who is David Burnham at heart? Well, I guess at heart, I'm an artist, basically. I'm happiest when I'm creating my music and performing and just being creative in any different venue, or whether it's a record or whether it's on stage. As long as I get to do what I love, which is to perform, then I'm happy.
Well, take us back a little bit. What was life like growing up?
Well, I grew up on a farm about an hour outside of Los Angeles in a small town called Fontana, which we lovingly call Fontucky. Didn't know I could sing until I was a junior in high school. I was trying to get into woodshop class, and that class was full. So the only class they had available was choir. Went into choir and opened my mouth, and I could sing. Found out I really loved it. And luckily I had a great choir director, and he kind of took me under his wing and encouraged me to pursue music. And I ended up getting a scholarship to college, on music scholarship, and went from there and just started performing and auditioning for anything I could find, and started working in musical theater.
What was your favorite music growing up?
My favorite music growing up, well, I had a lot of different influences. My dad loved gospel music, and he also loved Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra. So I was exposed to a lot of really great crooners when I grew up. And also I enjoy some of the classic musical theater performers, such as John Raitt and Carousel, and some of those guys who really belted out tunes. I really enjoyed that growing up.
Tell me about the first time you dreamed of Broadway.
I had always been a fan of musicals since I was a kid. I would watch them on TV and stuff. But probably not until high school did I start getting the bug. When I realized I could sing, I thought, well, maybe I could actually be in a musical. That's when it all happened for me, as far as I started getting the bug. And then when I went to college and studied more, the more I studied, the more I loved it. And then eventually I got my big break.
You mentioned some of the songwriters that you heard growing up, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra. What about now? What singers have caught your ear?
You know who I'm listening to right now a lot is Adele. She's got her new album. It's just so fantastic, and I really love what she's doing musically. She really sings, and her writing is just beautiful. Rolling in the Deep is a terrific song, and so I'm really into her right now. And like I said, I have a lot of very eclectic taste. I'm always listening to a lot of different things. I listen to classical music even, and a lot of my influences come from the past as well as what's current right now.
What is it you like about performing?
Well, performing live there's a rush like nothing else. It's that real exchange of energy between you and an audience. It's immediate and it's thrilling. You know, if you're singing a song and you know that the audience is really on board with you and they're really into it, then there's this really great exchange of energy that happens that is just so much fun. And when you do a recording, you know, it's great you're in the studio and you do the songs, but you don't know how people are reacting to it or responding to it. So that's the difference between doing a record and performing live, I think, is that audience response.
Well, speaking of the record, the new record from David Burnham is One Day. What do you think about your new album?
Well, I'm thrilled with it. It took over a year to make. We weren't doing it every day for a year. You know, I would go and I did a show here and there, and I would come back and work really hard for a couple of months and then go do something else. But it's everything I hoped it would be. It's combining my songwriting, my singing, and music that I love, some classic standards. And I got to work with, I have a camp for kids called Camp Sing that I do, and 3 of the tracks actually feature like the kids from my camp singing in a big choir thing, and it was really fun to work with those kids and to be able to put them on the album. It turned out really beautiful and really inspirational, and I'm really proud of it.
This record is dedicated to your mom. Tell us about that.
Well, my mom was always my biggest supporter in life. When I was 8 years old, growing up on the farm, I would go out and I would kind of serenade the pigs, sing to the cattle and the pigs, and I came in one day after singing something to the pigs and as an 8-year-old boy and told my mom, "Mom, you have to write to MGM because I'm now good enough to be in a musical, I think." And she looked down at me and she said, "David, whatever you do with your life, make sure you do what makes you happy." So she's always been so supportive of me. And I lost her to cancer a few years ago. And so this album really expresses the love and appreciation I have for my mom and everything she did to me and everything she was for me.
Tell us about Mark Vogel, who produced this record, and he wrote a few of the songs.
Yeah, Mark Vogel is a brilliant composer and pianist. We actually met a little over a year ago. We were working on a workshop of a new Broadway musical. We hit it off really well. He was actually starting to work on Camp Sing. He had this idea for Camp and approached me about that. And so we started working on that and then realized, well, musically we're very similar in our styles and how we work. And he writes a lot of music for Fox Television and scores for movies and stuff like that. We just instantly hit it off and started recording and trying, just one or two songs, and that worked. And so we ended up doing the whole album together, and I'm just thrilled. Now he goes on tour with me when I do my concerts. He's my music director, and so I'm really thankful that I found him because he's terrific.
Could you pick a favorite song from the album?
Wow, it's like they're all my children. It's hard to pick one. I have favorites for different reasons. I really love the way Bridge Over Troubled Water turned out. I told Mark I really wanted to do a different take on it, not just the same kind of gospel take that everyone does. So I had this idea for kind of a Celtic feel, and I think he really nailed it and gave it this really unique sound. And then, some of the new tunes that we wrote are kind of bubblegum pop, if you will. They're kind of really catchy and fun, and they just put me in a good mood every time I listen to them. And then the other ones like Unchained Melody, and the string lines on it are so gorgeous. Every time I listen to them, I'm just like, wow, he made it sound like a movie. They soar, and it's beautiful. And then, of course, the song I dedicated to my mom called Fly Again is very personal to me because that particular song is, I think about her every time I hear it.
Tell us about the song Three Little Words.
Three Little Words, yeah, that was a song that I wrote with Mark Vogel. It was interesting. Any new song takes a journey, and that one was no different. It started out as actually, we were going to call it One Little Word, based on the idea that, just go out with me, say yes, and give me that one word, and I'll be right there. But as we started writing, one thing leads to another, and you just make different choices, and it ended up being three little words, which means, just say, I love you. And so once we got that, then it all kind of fell into place. It's kind of my nod to the 60s a little bit, and it's got a little retro feel to it. I've got lots of backup vocals on it that are real tight harmonies, and we took a little retro flair with it and then tried to make it modern. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out.
Another song on the album, One Day, is the song Beautiful. Tell us about that track.
Well, Beautiful is I co-wrote that one also with Mark Vogel and my engineer, Luke Tozer. It was his idea to start writing that song. He was just nominated for a Grammy for Katy Perry's album this year, and he was fresh off that, and he's like, I had this idea for a song. It actually started with a rhythm he had in his head, the drum track, this drum rhythm he had. So he played us that, and then Mark sat around the piano and said, well, what if we put this kind of a melody with it? And then I came on and said, well, I have an idea for a lyric. And so the three of us kind of combined together and came up with Beautiful, which is probably the most pop, maybe one of the most pop tracks on the album. It's a little different color, and I think it turned out really cool, and it was a lot of fun to record, and the process was really collaborative and interesting.
Another song on the album, One Day, is the song Beautiful. Tell us about that track.
Well, Beautiful is I co-wrote that one also with Mark Vogel and my engineer, Luke Tozer. It was his idea to start writing that song. He was just nominated for a Grammy for Katy Perry's album this year, and he was fresh off that, and he's like, I had this idea for a song. It actually started with a rhythm he had in his head, the drum track, this drum rhythm he had. So he played us that, and then Mark sat around the piano and said, well, what if we put this kind of a melody with it? And then I came on and said, well, I have an idea for a lyric. And so the three of us kind of combined together and came up with Beautiful, which is probably the most pop, maybe one of the most pop tracks on the album. It's a little different color, and I think it turned out really cool, and it was a lot of fun to record, and the process was really collaborative and interesting.
What is the best part about being David Burnham?
Well, I am blessed that I get to do what I love to do, and that's perform and write music and sing songs. I'm just so thrilled that I don't have to, have a 9-to-5 job. I get to perform, and for me, that is the greatest gift. I can't imagine doing anything else, and I'm so lucky that I get to sing for my supper.
Well, is there anything on the horizon?
The new album just came out, so we're starting to promote it. So we're going to be doing lots of concerts and putting a tour together and going to take this record on the road. And the eventual goal is to actually go overseas and play Europe, and whoever will have us and listen to our music. Any
desire to sing in Atlanta?
Yeah, I love Atlanta, Georgia. I actually did Light in the Piazza there, and that's a great town. Great town. I would come to Atlanta in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, just putting that out there.
And that's where the Paul Leslie show is based from, is Atlanta?
That's right, but we have listeners all over. It's kind of interesting.
Fantastic.
We actually have more listeners in New York City than any other place.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
I don't know why that is, but that's...
Yeah. Well, that's great. I love Atlanta. What a beautiful city, and the people were so generous and really, really nice. Had a good time there.
I know that this one's just come out and you're promoting this one, but are you already thinking in the back of your mind, does it ever pop up, like the next record?
Yes, we're already starting it. It's going to be a Christmas album.
Ah, okay.
Hopefully ready a year from now. It won't be ready this Christmas, but the following Christmas. I'm crazy for Christmas. I've always loved it, and I think my voice suits it pretty well because you can do some big singing for Christmas stuff.
Well, I have one final question. No matter where somebody is when they're listening to this interview, what would you like to say to all the people who are listening in?
I would just say, pursue your dreams. Pursue your dreams. If it can happen, if you make it happen. I'm living proof. I got out there and I made this album, and it's a lot of work, but boy, the payoffs are great. You just, inside, you feel so great if you actually get to do what you love to do, and so keep pursuing your dreams.
And everybody out there that wants to find out more about you, they can visit lmlmusic.com, and they can also visit your website for more information. And what would that be?
Yep. Just davidburnham.com.
That's DAVIDBURNHAM.com.
That's it. Yeah,
right.
And they can find out where tour information, more information on my records, and where I'll be next, and all that stuff.
Well, Mr. Burnham, I appreciate this interview very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leslie. It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, you have a fantastic day.
You too. And thanks for listening to my music.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you later.
Bye.